Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Get Smart Q&A. My name is Lawton Ho, and I'm joined by Drew Dosick and a new face you've never seen before. Her name is Liz, and she is our newest junior trader. Liz, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Lawton. Yeah, I'm a junior trader here at Verify Investing. Elizabeth Copeland, go by Liz, of course. But yeah, excited to be here, excited to be with you all and get to some questions part of the show today.
Absolutely. Well,
Cool.
thanks for joining us today, Liz. You've definitely been a big addition here in the room. So thank you for bringing those talents and helping us out on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Yeah, 4 weeks down and a couple more months to go. So I'm excited to learn from the pros, and hopefully you at home are too, because we've got a lot of great questions coming in, and can't ready to get ready to get to them on this Friday afternoon. Big day.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and kick it off. Christopher is asking about looking at the chart on uranium. He's short URA at $46, and he's looking to add if it continues to go up. So can you analyze that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look. All right. So on uranium, what I see here on uranium, we recently had a very nice breakout. You can see it's designated in here. Let me get this fixed. There we go. It's designated by this inclining trend line that you see here on my chart. Price recently propelled higher. Now notice it's starting to curl over. And normally whenever price breaks out of a trend line, it likes to come back and retest where it broke. So I am anticipating uranium to come back. Notice how we've got pivots right here. Likely we'll start coming back under 5,000, right around 4,900 from what I'm seeing. Now, this has a little bit of conflicting information. It is slightly a bullish flag, but then we also have a rounded top component. So, but with all of that being said, we haven't retraced to where we broke out. So I'm anticipating that before price can potentially go higher. And price action, when it comes down to that trend line, how it behaves right there will really give you insight if we're going to bounce, if we're going to then break through and head lower. And really, if we do head lower, this area right here, $4,600 is going to be the level of support just under that trend line.
Awesome. Great answer, Drew. Hopefully that answered your question, Christopher. That was a very great detailed answer. So another Christopher wants to know, and I know we've brought this up in the past, but Drew or Lawton, I know that there's a specific area for this. So I wanted to address this maybe for future questions for the show too. But Christopher was asking about a specific position that's open in our Smart Money trade alert room or parts of Smart Money. If someone has a specific question about an open position, can you help them tell them where to go and how to get that question answered?
Yeah, absolutely. Just go to our Smart Money Stocks and ETFs question board. Fill out those questions there. We want to make sure to maintain the integrity for all of our members that are paying for these services. Obviously, this is a free show. So any specific questions on open positions, feel free to go ahead and ask in that area. Obviously, follow the guidelines of your trader. What they're conveying. We have in those for that are not members, one of the great features of our smart money stocks and ETF services, and really all of our trading services, each one of our pros does weekly videos, and Gareth even does daily videos. So make sure to watch those videos. He includes all his insight for all his open positions, especially on Friday. So pay attention to that. But yeah, thanks, Christopher, for the question. Navigate over to our member dashboard, submit that question. We'll be happy to address it at a later point. All right.
All right. Awesome, Drew. Thank you so much. And Michael wants to know about coal. Can you analyze CNR?
Yeah, let's check out CNR. I did actually write a paper about, or paper. I wrote an article about this recently. Sometimes my articles feel like papers.
Drew's back in school. Teaching us all.
Yeah, basically. And I do like to talk. I guess it's good it's not conveyed through all of my articles, all right? But you see here with CNR, I've got a declining wedge on the chart. We've had a nice accelerated move up. Next resistance is going to be down on this declining trend line. Roughly is going to be about $137.14. At that area, you should anticipate a pullback, as this has only been tagged twice. Now, moving up, tagging that trend line, and then price can come down, catch support where price currently is. That's going to be the area of support should we continue marching higher. Notice all these green candles on the chart too. That is a little bit of an overextension near term. We're not all the way extended and overbought, as you see at the relative strength indicator at the bottom of the screen. Haven't quite reached 70 yet, but we don't need to reach there for a pullback or consolidation. Notice right here, We didn't reach 70, but we paused, pulled back, bounced, put in a beautiful bottoming tail. Bottoming tails at the bottom of the charts indicate that we're likely to be going higher in the near to midterm. That's what this chart has done. Even with a little dip, you can see that this is like a flashing light to you on the charts. When you have these big bottoming tails at the bottom of the screen, that's a good buying opportunity. You see up here in the top right portion of my screen, the 50% retrace of that bottoming tail was $128.07. 75% retrace was 127.09. You can see it actually did a 75% retrace. So that is the beauty of technical analysis. If you miss a bounce, that's okay. Wait for it to pull back, then buy and push higher. I think, as I said, next resistance up here, 137. Now, regarding coal losing momentum all across the world, they've been trying to reduce using coal, whether it's the European Union or other various countries, except for China. China's using coal heavily. But recently in the United States, we actually did make an initiative to have some more coal used for power production. As you know and may know, the AI data centers that are being built out are going to require an awful lot of energy. And so the United States is trying to find every way possible to supply that energy, some of which can be used with coal, but it's preferred not to use it since it does have some more pollution issues that can arise from overuse of coal.
All right, Drew, thank you so much. And then I've got one for Lawton. A couple people, Alfredo and Abdul, asking about SOX. Can we look at the SOX stock? What's your thoughts on SOX?
Sure. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I just wanted to mention, guys, if you do want to submit your questions, you can do so exclusively on the verifiedinvesting.com website. Just click that watch and ask to submit your question if you're watching on YouTube. So first of all, we have to understand what SOX is, right? And if I click enter here, my chart's going to look insane because of how many numbers you see on this side, because you can see how many times I've traded it. SOXS is an inverse, a 3 times leveraged inverse ETF of an ETF that tracks semiconductors. So because it's a leveraged ETF, we don't really want to chart the SOXS. Instead, we want to chart the SOXX. And I know it's confusing because they sound very similar, but SOXX, that's what we're going to be charting. So for me on the SOXX, and you see that my chart is also insane. Let me see. Hopefully, if I go like this, might be a little less stuff on it. Okay, there's a cleaner chart. So you can see that the SOXX has gone up straight, right? Up 90% since the Liberation Day lows down here, and SOXS has fallen, right, as a result. Now, from what I'm reading on your questions, what's the outlook? Where would you add? Where do you, I think, realistically you could get to? Well, let's be conservative, okay? And let's take a look at the chart. Where are the areas that you anticipate a bounce on the SOXX? Of course, you're going to look at a gap fill here, right? Gap fill here, but that's just really close. There's another one down here from September. The key one, that gap fill that I'm watching, is somewhere around here, around this 193 level. And this is where I'm targeting that if the market does decide to roll over, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a 30% correction or even more in the semiconductor industry, considering how much of a tear they have recently been on. Now, if this were to happen, where would the price of SOXS be? You just take this move, 30 to 31%. You times it by 3, and you're talking about a move essentially double, right? Like a 2 times up. Right? So does that mean SOX is going to go directly to $9? Not necessarily, because there is slippage. Right? For me, a realistic target on SOX, should we get a market sell over to here, and one could argue that we're expecting a rollover to even further. A realistic target for me is around the $9 level on SOXS on a pullback. Sorry, that was a little long. Sorry about that, Liz. But
no, that was great. Thank you. Yeah. That was a great explanation. You do great. And And then we also were looking at WRD. Do one of you have an analysis on that chart?
Yeah, I mean, We Ride. So We Ride kind of like a meme stock almost. Um, this is a company that got some really bullish news. I believe it was like Nvidia investing in it. Dropped up 150%, fell over the course of the next couple of months, even below that level after it turns out that Nvidia divested from them no longer. And I had it previously trading in this beautiful wedge, right? We saw it attempt to break out, couldn't quite do so, broke above, retraced, and now is pushing higher, right? Coming back in a little bit. So this is the trend line. This lower trend line on this wedge is what I'm kind of watching to see if it could break above or come back down. If it does, if We Ride does come down and break this kind of upsloping trend line that formed the basis to the bottom part of this wedge, I'd likely be expecting a move down to at least this pivot low, probably somewhere around 723. Excuse me. 723 to 750, somewhere in this range on a pullback. This is the trend line that I would watch. I don't know if you're long or short on We Ride, but this is my current outlook if it does end up breaking this kind of upsloping trend line.
Awesome.
Thanks, Lawton. And we have a question about Hood from Brian. Do you have any read on the recent rally? Are they really going to be able to offer sports gambling with the regulations around that? What do the charts suggest could be the likely upside if the potential to the stock keeps running?
That's a good question about if they're able to continue allowing this. They did do so with Kalashi. It's another company that's providing these event betting options for you, basically. And you got to understand with what Robinhood's doing when they did roll in crypto and they rolled in these events, they're in essence rolling in derivatives that you trade. They're not rolling in anything for crypto wise that you can buy and hold, at least for now. They're all derivatives that they're trading with. Instead, if you wanted to buy, let's just say crypto, you got to go to a regular exchange. One of the benefits of Hood getting in the gaming service, it should be a lot faster for some of the products to get some of the personnel to get their money, their winning bets deposited straight into their portfolio. But then again, that's pretty interesting how they've stacked their chips to where you can keep your money there, but it is very tempting to buy other stocks or continue using their services. Regardless, you can see I've got a lot of notations going on here on this screen on this chart. So let me clean it up just a little bit and show you what I'm seeing. So this parallel channel, I think, is paramount to where and how Hood has been trading ever since. You can look back here, April of this year. We've just been kind of marching up through this parallel. We went up, hit the top, came down, hit the bottom. And in this scenario, we've gone from the bottom to the top in just 28 days. So we've done so very quickly, considering this area, it took about 102 days for that time frame to reach up here to the top. So now we've done so much more rapidly. This does put the brakes on a lot of additional gains on Hood, or at least from what I'm seeing. Now, anything can happen in the markets. There's no guarantee that this parallel will hold, but that's likely. And you can see we're starting to put in, looks like a doji tail right here at the top of the daily chart, which the doji tail is, it provides indecision. That's what it really conveys. There's equal amount of buyers and sellers at that location. Considering that Robinhood also from the April lows is now up 413%. This sort of run usually exhausts itself before it continues barreling higher. Now, again, there's no guarantee in the stock market, and past results doesn't necessarily mean future results are going to be the same. So we could very well break out of this. But I think we're much closer to the end of this run pushing up than we are towards, say, the middle or even more so the beginning, simply because of its overextended nature. I got divergences on the weekly and daily timeframes with the relative strength index that you see down here at the bottom of the screen. We tagged one of those lines today. I can even increase, let me just increase this size right here so you can see the whole screen. You can see this screen, this RSI right here, tag this declining trend line perfectly. So we'll see if we push up even further where we would test this line on price action, but all of which has diverging RSI, which typically leads to price coming back down. And look at that mammoth green candle for this 1 week. Impressive move on Hood. You can't deny it. It's really been an incredible push. Usually when stocks go straight up, they come straight back down, and we'll see if that's the case on Hood's chart in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew.
Mhm.
All right. So Anna has a question. She says, first, hey guys, I love your show. I was wondering if you could analyze Solana. Seems to be going. Do you see any longer short opportunities in the near term?
Yeah, let's take a look. Now, Solana, the interesting thing about this, we did break this inclining trend line that you see here on the chart. However, we've got some negative daily divergence. So that's telling me we're getting a nice bounce, but it may not last that long. We got a nice topping tail, daily topping tail here registered on September 24th. Solana, I still am a really good believer in Solana as far as its capabilities. So I do like this V-shaped recovery. What you want to see is you want to see price really kind of consolidate right here on this inclining trend line. This was taken from a pivot back on March 3rd. And then I connected it over to a pivot on July 25th. That's what I'm watching on this chart. We did break through and confirm above this trend line. So now I want to see some consolidation to regain momentum to break through this topping tail and consolidation area. As long as we stay above that trend line, I think we got a really good shot of that happening.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew.
Mhm.
Alex is asking about BTC. Do you have a 4-hour SFP, and what's your thoughts for the next day? Possibly a pullback to 108K? Cheers.
A 4-hour SFP. What is that? SFP?
Maybe a 4-hour
What is-
time frame.
Yeah, I'm guessing the 4-hour time frame, but it's for BTC.
Yep, with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he says, do we have a 4-hour SFP? What is the SFP?
Unsure. However, you can see here on the charts of Bitcoin, again, back to the RSI, we're approaching 70, near term overbought. Doesn't mean we can't go higher though. You see this, I've got an inverse head and shoulders pattern displayed on the chart with this neckline where we clearly broke out, didn't retest yet. I saw a red candle starting to emerge earlier, thought we were going to start pulling back down, but since have pushed up higher on the charts. Currently trading at $122,382. The measured move target for this inverse head and shoulders is up here at 127,459, but there's conflicting signals on these charts, folks. We've got a weekly topping tail on Bitcoin's chart. To get above this is 1,200 or $124,533. So be watching that very closely. I would anticipate a lot of resistance on Bitcoin right at that basically $124,500 level. And we'll see if we can break through. Usually measured moves get tagged. Sometimes they make about 80% of that move. That would then basically put us right there at that topping tail. So be watching what happens with price action if we do push up a little bit higher.
Awesome. And Peter has a generic question, not necessarily about a specific chart, but he's asking about confirmation candles. Specifically, red down candle can be a confirmation if it closes above a breakout candle.
Yeah, that's something that we go over in the Winter Trader series. And, I recommend you to just watch one of those. Watch that educational course. That's proprietary information. I do go through it on Trading the Close often, and so does Gareth on his morning shows. So you can probably pick it up there. But that is something that is in some of our educational courses that a lot of members have already paid for. So I'd hate to convey all that information right here. I want to at least protect them and their purchases. But you can see we talk about it often, and you can probably infer from how we discuss and display charts, what's going on there on that chart.
Yeah, definitely very interesting to get into those courses. I know I've taken them already, but definitely want to watch a second time. So a lot of very good information there. So James is asking about data centers, especially the energy companies such as AEC, Oklo, SMR. Would you agree? In his opinion, he says that it's the place to put money right now. You want to pull up, maybe AEC or Oklo?
You want me to take it?
Yeah, you can switch to my charts.
Anfield Energy.
So if you look at this chart, right, is this the place to put money? Well, if you've been following us for a while, you know how we like to trade, right? And even though this chart appears to be on the lower end of the charts, we can take a look at AEC's recent price action. It's gone up over 300% in the past few months, right? And if you're, what are the other tickers he mentioned? That they mentioned?
OCLO, and then
Or yeah.
AEC.
So, or even OKLO. Taking a look at OKLO, as you see, I have a lot of drawings on my chart, right? OKLO up 600% from those Liberation Day lows. Still down around 14% from its highs from, literally last month, like a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago. But something up 600% in the past couple of months. I'm not comfortable entering this. I would not advise, or I would not personally put my money into these positions at those levels. And it's really because I feel like I've missed the move, right, on these stocks already. If it's already moved up 600%, could it keep going higher? Yeah, sure. But I don't have any technical factors as to why this should move higher, particularly on something like OKLO. Because if you're thinking, okay, these data centers, all these energy, that's where we're going to throw our money, chances are other retail people are thinking about that too. And it's just a game of chicken, right? You're going to keep throwing your money in, keep throwing in your money, and then finally, eventually the rug will get pulled. Now, if you ask me where I'd enter this on a long, on a pullback, I could definitely do that. I can give you some support levels that I believe OKLO might get a bounce. So if we were to fall 16% to this gap fill around 104, 100% I'd be interested in potentially buying it for a day trade. Probably not a swing trade. I'd need it to come down a little more. Maybe down to this level down here around $60, and that sounds crazy, right? A 50% pullback. But for something that's moved up over 300%, that's really not all that crazy, right? For a long-term hold, I need to wait for a correction, especially considering our overall outlook on the markets is definitely more bearish than anything else. So.
Awesome. And speaking of day trading and swing trading, Lawton, we have a swing trading question from Angel. I was curious about your analysis on BNB on the daily chart for a swing trade. I'm watching a trend line in the weekly time frame starting around the 18th of December 23, extended to the 2nd of December 24. It touches a high, and if you keep extending it, would that be a target for a swing short?
What was his name?
Angel or Angel, but Angel Valdez.
Yeah. Curious about BNB.
The Binance Coin?
Yeah, I think it's Binance Coin. He didn't specifically mention crypto, but I think I think it's this chart you're talking about.
Okay.
Yep, you got the same trend line that I do right there. The longer term one.
You had this trend line, this one through here, this one, right, Drew?
Yep.
This was my level for a potential pullback, and you see it did pull back from it here. Broke up above, retraced a little bit, then pushed up higher. If you're asking me where I would short it now, it's tough, right? Shorting things at all-time highs are always difficult because you're looking at trend lines, you're looking at bibs, try and find potential levels. It's kind of crushing a lot of my levels of resistance. Do you have anything clear, Drew, where you'd short this?
Would I short it? It's tough to say because I don't have a technical factor besides just the RSI being overbought on the weekly down here. And there's a little divergence with that as well. You do have a nice breakout with that trend line that Lawton and I were discussing. Price is likely coming back here, but it's already done that last week. So I probably would refrain. There's nothing else technically that I can see at the moment that's going to tell me this is coming up or down. We do have, it's not the cleanest of head and shoulders patterns, but here we'll see this. Just see roughly. Head and shoulders looks like it's already played out. Yeah, it's already played out. So it's basically almost at its max move. Sometimes I flip on the moving averages and take a look at that too. You can see this is up now 44%. There's nowhere other where that yellow, actually maybe right here, but look what happened. 139%. Yep. So see, you definitely can go up more, 160%. So it can go more. And shorting all-time highs is really difficult unless you've got some technicals to go along with it, whether it's parallel channels. And I can even try one of those too. I'm not sure it will give us that much info, but let's take a look. And I'm going to have to drag this all the way back over here to these other pivots. So bear with me 1 second so we can get a high-end range. And then voila, at least we got some more info. So it looks like we're just breaking this 50% area. This is on the weekly time frame. If I flip over to the daily, you can see this day alone is now poking above there with more divergence on the RSI. I'm just looking at this. This could have some tough staying power. You want to see price close above this 50% area, then follow up the next day. That's really going to put probabilities in your favor for continued upside to stay above this 50% area of the parallel. I'd say that's what I would be watching if I were looking for weakness. If I saw a move up, then I would step back and wait. But I mean, we're at a spot you could potentially play, but we've already had that pullback right here. So I'd rather see a bigger extension and then looking to short, because I just don't have another level unless you're talking about all the way up here at the top end of the parallel, roughly 1650 on the charts.
All right, thanks, Drew. So Michael's asking about NEM, major extended at this price. I guess majorly extended at this price is asking if it is.
Newmont.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's asking if it's majorly overextended.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Newmont, just like everything else, right? Liberation lows gone ballistic, up over 100%. This is a company that mines precious metals like gold, right? So a lot of the miners don't always, right? They don't always follow one-to-one with gold, but generally when gold goes up, so do the miners, right? And this is more a gold is at all-time highs, right? So Newmont continues to push higher, and we can see if I go to the weekly that we are now at the all-time highs on Newmont. This week we made new all-time highs on Newmont, and this is an area that that you're expecting some sort of resistance, and you see that from that thin blue line, that was my level of resistance on Newmont. It did push up and came down, pulled back around 5%, which for most stocks isn't that much, but for Newmont Mining or any gold or commodity related stock is pretty decent pullback, right? So I do believe Newmont is overextended. I think you can draw a couple of trend lines. Let's see if we have any good trend lines here. So you can see that it's still in the solid uptrend, still staying above this kind of upsloping trend line. If this were to break, if we were to see a rollover in Newmont, it wouldn't surprise me if this thing fell 15 to 16%. However, it's going to be reliant on one of two things, right, on Newmont. And I can scroll back to historical data to show you this fall, right? This fall on Newmont, was it because of gold prices falling? No, it fell because of poor earnings, right? On poor earnings, Newmont fell significantly. I think there's another one here. Yeah, same thing here. Why did it fall? It fell because of poor earnings, right? 36% there, right? So in order for this to break, in order for Newmont to pull back, I would either need to see a pullback in gold or probably poor news or bad earnings on Newmont. But as long as it can stay above this kind of trend line, I think it can continue higher. But the fact that it's kind of stalling out here, kind of chopping sideways, if you see the chop and then an eventual break, you're likely to see that move lower on Newmont Mining.
Awesome, Lon. That was a great explanation. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. I know you guys are really busy today. So this one's from Brendan. He said, thoughts on MSTR lagging BTC? Does that mean it's poised to blow up and catch up?
Let's take a look. Now, I did cover Bitcoin a little bit earlier. And the Bitcoin chart, as I said, you've got conflicting signals. You've got an inverse head and shoulders, plus that weekly topping tail there. So I've seen a lot of reports and analysts talking about, could this be a bull trap? What's going on with Bitcoin right now? It's yet to be determined. But at least I've got those targeted measured points for you, especially that weekly topping tail. So keep that in mind. Now, MSTR, yes, it could catch up if Bitcoin has staying power. Now, if we go up there and hit those new all-time highs right around 127, where that measured move is, and say we hang out, then yes, MSTR can start pushing up a little bit higher. You notice on this declining trend line, we've attempted with MSTR several times to get above and have staying power there, and it's not done it yet. Recently, we did break out the last 3 trading days. We did get back above there. So that's near-term good news for MSTR. The next resistance level for this is going to be on this inclining trend line. It's going to be roughly at $378.23. So watch that area on price action. The next major resistance beyond that is going to be this other inclining trend line right around 468. Now, considering MSTR has really kind of stayed stagnant, hasn't really produced the generous incline in price that Bitcoin's received, even when it's marched up. So that does show that there is certainly some lagging going on here, but that could be for other reasons, such as some of their debt that they use to acquire Bitcoin. So it's a little bit more complicated. Doesn't follow Bitcoin tick for tick. It seemed like it did right here when it was marching up in 24, but it doesn't follow it tick for tick. This is a pretty volatile stock. So that's my take there on MSTR. It could push up a little bit more, but it just doesn't follow it tick for tick. Bitcoin needs to have a little bit more staying power at new all-time highs for it to keep pushing up a little higher.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, if I may, like,
Sure.
a lot of people previously used MSTR as a proxy for Bitcoin, right? And so if they didn't want to open a crypto wallet, whatever barrier to entry, they just buy MSTR instead because it's a proxy. But now that there are ETFs for Bitcoin, there's literally Coinbase, these other things that are maybe even better proxies for Bitcoin. MSTR will it's still going to move with Bitcoin, but maybe move less closely to Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty interesting. Thank you, guys.
Mhm.
All right, I've got 2 more questions. These will be a little bit more simple, maybe not chart analysis. Number 1, Willie asks, what's a percentage loss that's appropriate for a stop out on a call option, or do you base it on the underlying stock?
Well, it really depends there, Willie. Depends on a couple of things, right? It depends on the trader giving the trade, right? If it's one of us giving you our entries, exits, stop loss, target, etc., every single trader has a different specific style, right? So you have to refer to them. The way I do it, yeah, you could use it. You could base it on the underlying stock and be like, well, I'll stop out if it breaks resistance or whatever, right? Or if it turns bullish, if you're buying a put, right? But something else you have to remember, right? That if it's an option, right, you're not only fighting the stock, you're also fighting time, right? So if the trade suddenly, even if the chart looks like it's going to move in your direction, but me as a trader see that I'm running out of time and the move is not likely to play out, in that specified amount of time, then hey, I might choose to take it off the table because I don't think that's going to happen in time, and I would protect myself from further downside. It really depends on the specific situation and the trader, but that's the way I generally like to think about things. I don't know if you have anything different, Drew.
No, that's about right. And every trader's a little bit different. I usually like about 10% rule, roughly. Options are a little bit different depending upon what option I play. I may just try to swing for the fences on it.
Mm-hmm.
Options too, 20, 30, 40%. Sometimes I'll shoot for those. So general swing trades are about 10% for me, roughly about 10%. I usually like that rule. Not trying to lose too much more on swings. Options, you kind of have to give it a little bit more wiggle room because, geez, the price can fluctuate tremendously on those bids and asks and can really give you a lot of money. So, yeah, I like the way you answered that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great job. All right, so this is from Mandy. I'm pretty excited about this one myself, but I know Drew can answer this a lot better than I can. For Drew, could you tell us more about the Gann cycle report? Will you be covering it in these videos? Thank you.
In this video, no. Good question. But we will have a dedicated video that I will release once a week, starting on Mondays. I'm glad you asked that. I go through all of the teachings I learned through my mentor, but he learned all of this through W.D. Gann. And I have learned a lot about time cycles. how they can be applied not only to the stock market, but they can be applied to events that occur all throughout the world, as well as in your life. And so I'm going to be diving in, especially starting Monday. We're going to be really taking a deep dive into the North Node. And you may say, what is that? Well, I'm going to teach you all about it on Monday, because that individually is what I use with all of my analysis critically to find what's going on with the markets, what I can anticipate with any sort of change in direction. And then I go from there. But every one of the videos, I'm going to add in a layer of education, and I'm going to focus on one topic. And then I'm also, during each video, going to update you on our current cycle process and what's going on there on the cycles. I'm going to teach you how I read the charts. The cyclical charts are a little bit different. It's reading the zodiacs, and it's a lot about alignments and geometry. So I'm going to get those loaded up onto the computer, show you guys how I flip through. It's going to be very informative. And as I said, it's going to benefit you not only in the stock market, but it make you a better, well-rounded person so that you can start anticipating events before they do occur.
Drew, I don't know about you, but I am super pumped to hear about it, to tune in. You guys have got to tune in. Drew's a great teacher, and I know he's jazzed about this topic. So he's going to bring it all for you every Monday. Very excited about that. All right. Well, I think that's about time, guys. If there's anything else you want to add, that's great. But
I got to say thank you, Liz, for hosting. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Lawton, obviously being here with us and knocking out some of these questions. Thank you, members, and also guests coming through and asking questions. Happy that you guys are here. Most importantly, thank you for the participation. And Christopher, just reach out to our support. I'll make sure to talk to them too to see what we can do to help you out with some of those questions. All right.
All right, thanks, guys. So that's Get Smart with Smart Money every Friday, 2 p.m. Make sure to tune in again next week. We'll be right back here. But thanks, Lawton. Thanks, Drew. I hope you guys have a great Friday.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys. Take care.